So, debaters, I'd like to check on Saturday, from what time to what time is your session for the preliminary rounds?
Actually, teacher, we haven't gotten our turns yet.
Oh, you haven't got your tentative yet.
Tentative done, but the turns not yet.
No,
For
I mean,
the
I'm
tentative,
talking about the tentative. From what time to what time on Saturday? Because I think they're going to have preliminary rounds and probably quarterfinals, is it, on Saturday? Yeah?
yeah.
So, what time is it? What time are they starting?
Round 1 is 9 a.m. till
Okay.
11, and
Okay.
then round 2 is 11 till 1,
Uh-huh.
and then there will be a lunch break, and then round 3 is 2 until 4 p.m.
Round 3. Okay. And what about the quarters? Is that round 3 or is it on Sunday?
It's still on the same day, 4:30 until 6:30.
4:30 until 6:30. So that will be the last slot on Saturday. Okay. All right. Then it's fine. Okay, at least till 6:30. All right. We could still discuss on your how did you perform on Saturday, all right? Because I think on Saturday they will inform whether the team is going to break or not, all right? So if you break, you get to go into quarters, right? Let's pray that you break, all right? Then you have to prepare for semi and finals on Sunday, okay? All right. So we have discussed about the death penalty, all right? There were a few important arguments that all of you shared, and I did provide a bit of explanation on how to go about explaining and analyzing this particular issue. All right. So the next motion that we are going to look at is that the House believes that online teaching is less effective than classroom teaching. So before I show my ideas, all right, I want to hear from one of you. Okay, I believe that you have done homework for both, the government as well as the opposition. Okay, so I want you guys to vote because there are only two of you at the moment. Okay, so who wants to go for government? Who wants to speak in behalf of the government? Christina, can you do that?
Excuse me, teacher. But I did the motion is like in a second speaker format because
It doesn't
we are.
matter.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't matter. All right, it doesn't matter. I just want to see how do you start your speech. Okay, I want to see what are your arguments, and I want to see how you analyze and explain the arguments. All right. So I'm going to time you, Christina, when you speak, and I'm going to provide you a feedback right after you have finished. Okay, so you're going to go on the side of government, I believe. Yeah. All right. So on the motion today, the House believes that online learning is less effective than traditional learning. We have the speaker from the government team to start her case. Here, here.
It would be a statement to say that everyone in this room knows how it feels to work under pressure. Did you know that more than 3/4 of students have experienced stress or anxiety about changes to their exams being online? But before I begin, a very good afternoon to all members. Online teaching, web-based courses, cyber education. We all know that these events involve combination of teacher, distance, and students. After one of the most disrupted academic years in generation, these students deserve clarity on how their academic futures will look like post-pandemic. The motion for today is that online classes is less effective than classroom teaching. We, the affirmative teams, believe that this is true. The first speaker on the opposition side has tried to tell you that online classes flexibilities is a benefit to the students. This is wrong because students' assessments and feedbacks will be limited with this online distance learning. The internet provides informations back and forth to audience, but it also makes it harder to access some types of student feedbacks. The opposition side has also mentioned that this flexibility of time lets students study at their own pace and time. But what they have failed to prove is how this is a true statement and not just an assumption looking at a small scope of students instead of whole. Leader of opposition has also said that online classrooms has lower costs and depths. We find this wrong because we should take into consideration that there are families with more than two children sitting for constant online class every day. This requires access to the internet connection and electricity monthly or even daily, and it will be increasing, especially for those that have their child preparing for online examinations. Our first speaker has already explained that economically, disadvantaged students cannot afford a computer or internet service. I will be talking to you about 2 points. Firstly, on technical hurdles. Not everyone can afford to have a stable condition of internet to hear clearly during live sessions or to surf the internet to download videos provided by their teachers, nor to watch educational videos on the web. This is because download times are too long, attached files get corrupted or carry viruses. It is also proven that we haven't found any way to build great websites to overcome this, as it will take a long time. It is not worth the risk. My final point is on human frailty. To support is that often too we find that frustrations with online teaching does not only occur because of the inherent limitations of technology, but due to the degree of variability in the human capacity to interact with technology. As example, students or teachers accidentally deleting messages. Through these points and rebuttals, we have come to conclusion that online classes won't be able to provide a genuine education with an emphasis on convenience rather than critical thinking. We should really take care of a learning experience that will actually provide quality education. And with that, I thank you. I was so nervous.
Probably because of the. Is this the first time going on full speech?
Yeah, we have at school we have never debated. Like we've only just like been watching our seniors do it, and then we just
Uh-huh.
sit by like listen, that's all.
I see. All right. Okay. Well, yeah, there's always a time for you to start. So it's good. All right. You spoke for 4 minutes and 7 seconds.
Oh, that's so
Yes,
like
yes. Of course, it is not hitting the time limit. All right. That's first probably because, you were pretty fast. Okay. Second, in terms of explanation, all right, of arguments, it could be expanded further. All right. If you realize that, I mean, obviously you're going to time yourself. All right. Debaters, you need to time yourself. That means apart from the timekeeper who is going to look over at your timing, all right, once you start your speech, if you have your phone or something with you, you just check yourself, in terms of timing as well. So while you are talking, you are supposed to keep a tab of the time so that you know, all right, whether you are on the right tracking along. Because if you're going to speak less than 6 minutes, it's obviously going to affect the content, all right, the meta aspect. So if you realize that you are actually done by the fourth minute, try summarizing and paraphrasing what you have said. Okay, that means you say again, but probably provide examples and analogies like what we spoke about in the previous session. Okay, now let's look at the ideas presented, Tifina. Yeah, all right. You talk. I mean, your main arguments were pertaining to technical hurdles, okay, which include internet. All right, and then you spoke about that I mean, the current system doesn't support. It doesn't provide a proper learning management site. All right, or system. And then the second argument you spoke about human interaction. Am I right?
Yes.
These are your two arguments, right? Okay. So when you started off, all right, it was a good start. All right, you spoke about how feedback and assessment were pretty limited for students. All right, and you also questioned on one of the idea that was put forward, assuming that the opposition talks about flexibility. That means a little bit of rebuttal. Yeah, right. So that's good. Okay, I'm going to go back and look at how you have explained on technical hurdle. Okay, all right, your first idea, you spoke about the stability of internet, right? Okay, when we talk about stability of internet, all right, uh, just a moment, yeah. Okay, so when we talk about stability of internet or networks, all right, so ask yourself this question, all right. So when you explain, you can always put up statements like, all right, I believe that, all right, one of the main issue that we should look at into this debate is technical hurdle that may be faced by students. Let me talk to you on how this actually impacts the process of learning. All right. For example, or my first example is that I'm going to explain to you how internet is pretty crucial in online learning, and many students may not have the opportunity as well as the exposure towards internet. Okay, why? Then you ask yourself why. Okay, because we're talking about some students, all right, some parents may not, they may have not subscribed to internet, all right, and another possible reason is that they are probably in rural area, right? Okay, so this is something that you ask. Okay, why? So when this happens, that means education is not accessible to every student. So that's why we feel that technical hurdle inhibits online learning. All right. So when you ask why, so okay, now we go to so. All right. So when these students cannot access internet, so the outcome is that education cannot reach them. All right. Therefore, that we go back to our point. All right. Emphasizing about technical difficulty. So this is just about internet. All right. Then you go to the second idea. Well, I'm going to explain further in terms of how technical hurdle can be looked into the aspect of materials, learning materials itself. Let's talk about some of the materials that were uploaded by the teachers. And because of internet stability or because of the device itself, all right, these materials are not accessible to every student. And learning material, all right, why? This is because learning materials is pretty important or significant in the process of learning. And we believe that if this learning material is, let it be either corrupted or if it's not suitable, it can inhibit or hinder the learning process. Then you have spoken about your files and so on, right? Then next you talk about, now, another interesting idea from the aspect of technical hurdle would be, in status quo, we do not have an established website or learning management system that can operate individually. At the moment, for example, during the pandemic, most of the school opted for Google Classroom or Schoology, or if you look at higher institutions, they may have their own learning management system. But apparently, when you look at school itself, schools do not have their own learning management system. And Google Classroom is pretty limited. And even Google Classroom, students need to have their own device to actually operate this. So the functions are pretty limited, and we believe that when there are certain instructions that is not well put in the system itself, it can actually confuse the student, and there could be error that leads to failure in terms of submitting their work or other issues that leads to it. So that's why we believe that technical hurdle is an important aspect that we need to look into when we talk about online learning. Okay, all right. So you can explain further. All right. When we spoke about the idea, it looked as if it's just in one or two sentences. All right. Remember, ask yourself these questions: why, so, how. All right. It will help you to expand your argument. Now, the second idea, the same thing, human interaction. We can talk about human interaction in many aspects, right? So why online learning? One of the most debated issues is that because of lack of human interaction. I mean, there's no engagement. Most often, it's always the teacher providing instructions and learning material, okay? Or even during the online live sessions, it's always the teacher who does the talking, all right? There is not much of collaborative learning, and that actually affects the process and the experience of learning itself for the student. So that's why we believe that it is not a holistic form of education. So, in education, all right, human interaction is one of the most crucial aspects that needs to be prioritized in the process of learning, and we feel that because online learning doesn't provide human interaction, it actually defeats the purpose of education itself, right? That means you can explain further. But anyway, Christina, it's a good try. Okay, it's a good try. I'm just telling you on how you can. The next time when you have an idea, this is how you can actually work on trying to extend the idea. Yeah. All right. So now, okay, that's from Christina. All right. Thank you so much. Let's hear it from the opposition team. Okay. So without further ado, I call upon the opposition speaker to present her case. You're here.
Do we need to do it in full speech, teacher?
Yeah, just like how Christina did it, of course.
Okay.
You try, all right? You give it a try.
I, as the leader of opposition, strongly believe that online teaching is much more effective compared to classroom teaching. A very good evening. I bid to everyone here today. So for today, I'll be doing two things for you, which is explaining my stances on why I believe that online teaching is much more effective compared to classroom teaching, and providing you with my arguments and reasons to why I believe that this statement is true. So for my first point, I believe that online teaching will allow us to be at the comfort of our own home. And when we do so, we will have everything we need around us. For example, if we are hungry or tired during classes or whatnot, we could take a short break, and we could also grab a snack and so. Other than that, we will be in a much more comfortable and a familiar environment, which is at the comfort of our own home. And when children and students are more relaxed and calm, they are able to study better. Especially in the context for students who goes to boarding schools. These students will be staying away from home, resulting into a new environment, which can cause a culture shock to them and will not be able to help them study as well as students who mostly spend their time at home. For my second point, I believe that online teaching is much more effective than classroom teaching, because students get to plan and they divide their time wisely, and according to their liking and preferences. They don't have to follow a strict order or timetable. For example, for those who go to boarding schools and hostels, or those who attend university, they will be given and provided with a very tight schedule, and they must follow that schedule daily. Um, through online teaching, students get more time to relax, spend more time with their family, and this will result into having much more happy students, which will then help to improve and boost their academical achievements. Um, Other than that, when students plan and divide their time wisely, it disciplines and educates these students to follow things and do things at their own capabilities, and it also teaches them to not take in more than what they can chew. Um, this also helps to teach students to be much more flexible and adapt to changing work conditions other than tackling multiple tasks at a time and setting their priorities straight, especially when they are at home. For an example, as a student, they have the responsibilities of being a student, a child, and um, also probably a sister or a brother. So other than having school work and studies to focus on, they can also learn to prioritize and how to set their time for family events, chores, and whatnot. As the government side have said, even with even with face-to-face interaction in classrooms, students still will not be able to fully give their full attention in class if they are frequently pressured and stressed with a very tight school schedule. This is why, as I said before, it is important for us to allow students to have their own time so that they could plan and divide it as to their liking. Um, Currently, with the current school system in Malaysia, it is proven that the timetable at school does not have breaks in between each subject. For an example, for science, they will be giving you 1 hour, and then right after that, there will be no breaks, and they will be continuing with the continuing subjects. Um, this results into us trying to cram a lot of input and information into a student's brain, and this will not be mentally healthy for a children who is still developing and still growing mentally and physically. It is very important, especially to us children and students, for them to be able to take a 5-minute break to process the information wanting to be implanted into their brains, and also for them to take a breath and for them to relax so that they would feel as pressured. That is why, as said, on our side, in our world, we believe that online teaching is much more effective compared to traditional classroom teaching. And with that, I thank you.
Okay. All right. Speakers spoke for 5 minutes 33 seconds. All right. It's a good try.
Still too short, teacher.
Yeah. So apparently, some of the ideas can be expanded. All right. Just to double confirm, one of your first argument is flexibility. Am I right? And what was your second argument?
My second argument was plan and divide their time wisely, so they can be more flexible because they can divide their time.
So-
like they set their priorities apart. Yeah.
So apparently, that's also flexibility, isn't it? So it's just one idea.
I see.
Yeah, because it comes under the umbrella of flexibility, right? So never mind, all right. Okay, there was an extensive explanation that leads to it, all right. So I really like how you started off your debate, okay. It looks very professional, all right. So that's very good. That means you clearly advocate what is your goal. Okay, this is something that Christina and maybe you can also pass on to your other friends. You guys can do this as well. All right. That means you clearly state that you start off with your stance. You can say that the house believes that online learning is less effective than traditional classroom, and I, as the Prime Minister, is going to present two arguments today, and my second speaker will be talking about so and so. All right, that means you tell them from the start itself what are you going to do. All right, okay, so that was a good start. Not much to change, all right? But you don't have to mention that you're going to say the stance, all right? Usually the stance, you just start off the stance, yeah? Okay, the idea of flexibility. Okay, let's go back and analyze the idea of flexibility. Yes, one of the main idea that people usually discussed in the context of online learning and traditional learning is that online learning provides the room for flexibility. All right, students can study at their own comfort. So why is this important? Because it gives them an avenue that they can study it anywhere at any time. All right. So why? Okay, let's compare. Teacher will tell you what is the difference between, okay, what happens in a university and school. Okay, you may have heard of that people actually do part-time studies, right? Like some of them they're working and then they take up they take up part-time studies. All right. So why? And they usually have online learning method. All right, because they provide them with the time and flexibility to study anywhere at any time. Okay, so that's the concept. All right, so this concept, all right, apart from people who are working, now the concept is already in the university as well, and now we even have it in school. All right, so so what does it allow students to do? We ask ourselves this question. So this is where you bring in the idea of learners. All right, not every student can learn at the stipulated time given in the school. Some of them are morning risers. All right. Some of them learn better at night. All right. Some of them are, kinesthetic learners. Some of them are audio learners and visual learners. We have different type. We have different type of learners. All right. So by having online learning and when you provide them the flexibility, they can study anywhere at any time, which means that a time frame that they are comfortable and they know when is the best time for them to study. All right, compared to a rigid timetable that you set up, like what you mentioned. All right, okay, so how will this help? So when you provide them the avenue and the comfort and the relaxation in the process of learning, you are going to encourage them to learn further, and they're going to develop love towards learning compared to hatred towards learning. They would enjoy the process of learning rather than having them sit through 6 hours of school, and which is more likely that students may not absorb what has been shared with them throughout the 6 hours of school, right? Okay, you also spoke about multitasking. Okay, I can agree to that, all right? But now it's a bit skeptical, all right? Because then it is open for question. So you talked about that, students can multitask. They have so many hats, that they have to carry on when they're at home and all. Then there was this one question that was triggering in my mind. Okay, if they multitask, can they focus in their learning? Will that affect the effectivity or the effectiveness of the learning process? Right? So that was a very tiny point. So we don't want to provide this kind of loop to the debaters. Okay, so yes, you can talk about multitasking, but maybe you can relate it to this way. You can say that, okay, you see, we do understand and we agree to the fact that students have to multitask when they're at home and when they are taking up online learning. And we feel that this multitasking skill will help them and prepare them for the future world where in most employment sector, they are required to multitask. Okay, if you want to say it yourself, you can try to twist this particular idea in that context. All right. So when we pick an argument, we want to be very careful in terms of how we explain. All right, because if you get an opponent who is very smart enough to even pick one or two phrases of yours, then it may backfire us. All right, but as I said, there's no perfect debate. All right, but at the same time, we don't want to provide them loopholes with us knowing that there is a loophole, isn't it? It's like giving a free basket of candies for them. Yeah. All right. So that's the first one. All right, the flexibility. Okay. Second idea, you can talk about cost effectiveness. All right, because just now Christina spoke about cost, but she talked about cost in the concept of how it's going to incur much when you take up online learning. All right, but maybe you can try and prove and tell how online learning is going to be cost effective. All right, so let's talk about cost as in online learning. The student only need to invest in a good gadget. All right, okay, and how this is going to be much more beneficial for longer term compared to traditional classroom. Where traditional classroom students have to buy uniform, like how the current issue is being heavily debated. All right, parents will need to prepare more because they need to prepare for their transport, they need to prepare for their books, they need to prepare for their pocket money. All right, they need to prepare a place for them to come back and rest once they finish their school, while online learning only requires them for a gadget and probably a stable internet connection. And most likely in most of the houses in Malaysia, we have, the families have actually engaged the internet subscription plan, and even the ministry is actually providing subsidies for internet package at the moment. And we believe that online learning is a way forward. And when you encourage students to go for online learning, you are equipping them with to the future. All right. So maybe that's how we can talk about course. All right, as a part of course for online learning. And then when we talk about university students, all right. So when you debate, all right, when you talk about this one, try not to just focus on schools per se. All right. If you have an idea about what happens in the university in other learning institutions, we can also incorporate. All right. So in university, what happens is that when there is an online, at the moment, because of online learning, the fees have been reduced for students. All right, because they are not using the facilities. All right, and with that, students feel that their burdens are eased. Right. So that's one another example that we can use in the process of online learning. Okay, but anyway, all of the ideas that both of you shared, okay, they are pretty valid. All right, it's good. It's just that we need to work a little bit further in terms of how we expand and analyze our arguments so that it makes sense. Remember, you want to sell your ideas, you want to pitch your ideas to adjudicators. You want them to buy. All right, so for that, you need to be persuasive. Okay, some of the ideas that we can talk about, all right, when we speak about online teaching, all right, and classroom teaching. All right, so here the keyword, oh, even I got it wrong. I was thinking it was online learning. Online learning is different. Online teaching is different. Okay, what is the difference is that online learning is the process of the outcome of learning itself. Online teaching, they are focusing on the teachers mainly, all right, and as of course it comes to the students as well, the stakeholders, teachers and students as well. So even I got the ideas wrong here, even I was thinking on the motion it is online learning, but never mind. All right, so whatever ideas that I have shared over here that you see on my slide, this is actually for online learning. Yeah, all right, we will discuss about the motion in a bit, all right, on how it actually affects the teachers. Yeah, so in terms of the government idea, we can say that online teaching, all right, it actually inhibits personal growth in the sense that, all right, when things are done online, okay, all right, students will not have the opportunity to develop them professionally in the context of a traditional classroom. Yeah, they cannot participate in activities. All right, they cannot enjoy the facilities in school. They cannot, expand their network with friends and so on. So that's how it inhibits personal growth of a student. All right, and on the side of opposition, we feel that online learning is effective because it's powered with the technology advancement. All right, and at the same time, it is at this point of juncture, yeah, online learning is the thing that keeps education going in spite of the pandemic. Yeah, and the stakeholders, of course, we are talking about students, teachers, parents, and lawmakers. Lawmakers are the ministry and so forth. Yeah, these are the people who are directly involved. So when you talk about online learning, you're talking about people in terms of the ministry itself. What are the steps they need to do, all right, if they want to implement online learning and so forth? So the government, the courses, all right, we discussed about these ideas just now in your debate, all right. So some of the causes is that, of course, online learning, there's lack of uh, engagement, all right, okay, lack of engagement, there's no personal interaction. And like one of your friends said, Christina, right, she spoke about she also spoke about flexibility, technical hurdle, sorry, she spoke about technical hurdle, yeah. So these are some of the issues, and the effect is that learning becomes ineffective. Yeah, and for the opposition, why we feel that online learning is better, all right, because it's futuristic, all right, and at the same time we are trying to prepare them for job sector, okay, because they need to equip themselves with technological skill, all right, and at this point of time, online learning is the best platform that can actually encourage them, all right, to learn these tools. And even at this era of pandemic, we realize that online learning is the best tool that can actually keep the um, education going. Yeah. All right. So some of the principle some of the idea that we can talk about when we speak about how online learning, all right, or teaching itself is ineffective, we can talk about the lack of teaching, all right, and training for teachers, all right, and then we also have to admit that we do not have content creator, all right, in schools, all right. Teachers are not natural content creators. Right? Teachers are teachers. If you look at some of these schools, all right, some of the private school, what happens is that the teachers will tell them these are the materials. Okay, I want you to come up with a nice video that will actually engage my students. So they have their own technologists, all right, instructional technologies who work on the content, all right. So that is one thing that is missing, all right, and of course lack of engagement when we talk about online learning, okay. Whereas the benefit of online learning is that they can learn at their own pace, and then they can always have engaging materials that are not so boring, like how they present at the traditional classroom. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the real issue behind this notion. Yeah, as I said, even I got it wrong. Why did I say that even I got it wrong? Because I wrongly read the motion as the House believed that online learning is less effective than classroom learning. But apparently the motion is on teaching. So which means that our main focus has to be on the teachers. So why online teaching is less effective than classroom teaching? Because teachers are not trained to teach online at the moment. So they are not trained to create materials, okay? They are not trained to cope with technical difficulties, and most of them, they are not, we are talking about some of the veteran teachers who are not technologically savvy, right? Okay, and then on the side of opposition, why we feel that online teaching is more effective? Because we feel that this is in par with the current advancement of technology, all right. And at the same time, we have to admit that when you try to implement a law, more likely, all right, the syllabus for teacher trainer will be amended as well, all right. And we feel that online teaching is much more effective because it allows teachers to explore materials, okay, and they are not controlled by timetable as well, okay. They have this autonomy all right, of deciding what are the learning materials suitable for their students, and they can design their own testing material as well for students. Okay, so that's how we look at on this motion, because this motion categorically said that it's online teaching. Okay, you see, even teacher got it wrong because I read the motion differently. Okay, this is what I've been telling, that we need to analyze the motion precisely so that we know which stakeholders are we really looking at for the debate. Yeah. Okay. The next motion, the interesting one, because you girls are from the girls' school, right? Okay, Christina, how long have you been in this school?
Years.
3 years. What about you, Sophia? 3 years as well.
Yes, as well.
3 years as well. Okay, all right. Okay, so on the motion, the House will abolish single-sex school. Okay, this time around, I want Sophia. All right. Okay, Sophia, can you be the opposition first? Sorry, the
I think I
government.
want to
The
go.
government.
Yeah.
Yeah, the government. Yeah, all right. You will be the government. Yeah.
Uh, all right. A very good evening, I bid to everyone present here today. So, for on our side, on the government side, we believe that it is better for us to abolish single-sex schools. What is a single-sex school? Single-sex schools are schools or institutions that only allow only girls or only boys to go to this school, making all its students only categorized into one gender. Why do we, on the government side, believe that abolishing single-sex schools is better than having them? Um, Firstly, we believe that it gives more benefits than harm. This is because when we abolish single-sex schools, it will educate children at a young age to be open-minded and are able to work together with the opposite gender of sex. This will also familiarize the students with the open community, as it will prepare them for the future world, as we will have to be cooperating with people with the opposite sex as well. This also avoids sexism in our community and encourages teamwork amongst students, and also for their future development. We, on the government side, believe that all of this can be achieved if schools that are not schools do group projects at school. For example, mixing boys and girls into the same group to do group work, or putting the sittings in class by mixing it up. Secondly, it is proven that boys mature physically and emotionally slower than girls. Um, uh, this is because we believe that if we abolish single-sex schools, it will give a much more positive impact to the boys from the girls. This is because both boys and girls get to learn from the presence of one another, and since girls mature faster compared to boys, they will be able to influence the boys in a positive manner, and this will maximize both boys and girls' potential for success. Um, yes, in this situation, it might hold some girls back, but that is why we, on the government side, believe that it is important for us to identify highly capable students as soon as possible, and categorize these students according not only to their academic achievements, but also on other skills and achievements. For an example, their skills in music, or their achievement in sports and whatnot. That is why we, on the government side, strongly believe that it is better for us to abolish single-sex schools instead of having them. And with that, I thank you.
Oh, that's pretty short. It's
I didn't have much ideas, teacher.
I see. Okay, never mind. You spoke for 4 minutes. That's true. Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. So Sophia, again, it's a good start. All right. You started off well. Okay. In terms of trying to say, I mean, your stance, I think, was to bring more benefit than harm. Yeah. That was your stance. Yeah. So that's good. Okay. And I also have to agree to the ideas presented that you said that, it's going to create openness, all right, among students. Okay. And then you spoke about how it's going to reduce sexism. Okay. And then you spoke about teamwork. All right. And these ideas can be expanded further. Okay. Now let's go back and look at how. Okay. How how will openness occur when you abolish single-sex school? All right. So let's go back and ask ourselves this question: how? Okay. In status quo, all right, with the existence of single-sex school, students are pretty curious about the other gender, isn't it? All right. And there are certain things that cannot be openly discussed because it's a taboo to discuss in a single-sex school. But when you're going to abolish single-sex school, you're going to allow these genders to mix with one another, okay, in a safe environment. Okay, you are going to provide an opportunity for openness where these genders can actually clarify and learn about each other and embrace the differences in both genders, right? So, that's how we're going to develop openness. And why this is important? Openness is important in the process of doing it, because at the end of the day, these students are going to face the real world, like what you said. Yeah? All right? And we believe that education should start at school, and this is one way forward by abolishing single-sex school. All right? You can explain it in that way. And then you spoke about it prevents sexism. Yeah, all right. So again, it relates back to the idea of how respect and mutual understanding comes in when you abolish single-sex school. That means you're not trying to superiorize any particular gender. All right. Okay. As a measure of trying to protect them, we are also trying to provide an equal opportunity for both gender, okay? And we want to teach them the value to respect each other, yeah? And then you spoke about teamwork. Well, teamwork, this is great. I think this idea can be developed into many aspects, right? You can talk about teamwork, how boys and girls are going to work in team, and each other they have their own strength, like what you mentioned. All right, the boys are usually stronger. Okay, and let's say if they have to do a science project. All right, you need different set of mind. Okay, and that's how that particular project will be successful. Okay, I'll give you an analogy. All right, you can tell them. All right, there is this saying that women are from Venus and men are from Mars. Okay, there is a reason why we say this. All right, because the way a woman thinks is completely different compared to a man. Okay, a man is more we call it analytical, whereas a woman is intuitive thinker. All right. So when you're going to put these two different gender in one set of learning, situation, you're going to provide them an opportunity to explore and to have a more critical form of learning. Okay, so that's how teamwork is going to be more effective in a co-ed school compared to single-ed school. All right, okay, and besides that, these students are going to go to university, and more likely they're going to face with boys or girls over there. And by not having the skills on how to interact and engage with the opposite gender, these students might face difficulty once they enter university. Alright? And more likely it will drag on to career world itself. Alright, that's how we can talk about how teamwork can be an essential skill that we need in in abolishing single sex. Yeah, all right. So ideas could be developed. Yeah, all right. But anyway, thank you so much. All right. So before we go on to the ideas over here on the board, let's hear it from the opposition team. Here.
People have freedom to make choices, and banning it restricts freedom. But before I begin, a very good evening I bid to all. Our side of opposition believes that we should not abolish single-sex schools. The second affirmative speaker has tried to tell you that we are breaking down barrier between two genders when we abolish single-sex schools. What they have failed to prove is this zero barrier between two genders actually giving benefits to the student education. We think that it is wrong because this structure cannot reinforce the traditional roles of gender in society. Even when we promote gender equality in society, there are specific ways that women are better than men and vice versa. Instead of trying to normalize these differences by dragging individual strengths toward weaknesses, the single gender classroom environment can help students implement their best attributes in ways that are equitable, healthy, and cooperative. She has also stated that abolishing single sex schools will guide students to boost their self confidence. She mentioned that this is to prepare students for a world that is less bound by any kinds of harassments. With the trends that is rising about on sexual harassments and whatnot. I would like to emphasize here that please, instead of normalizing that our generation will be fine with the trends of harassing keep rising as educators or a learning society, we need to teach boys how to respect women and we need to teach girls how to defend themselves. We on the opposition side believes that prohibitions convey the idea that banning single-sex schools will send the message that single-sex activities or environments are inherently counterproductive. After all, we have to respect each other. I will then move on to my 2 points. Firstly, I would like to claim that MRI scans has shown that boys have more areas of brain dedicated on mechanical strengths, while girls have better verbal and emotional processing. This is why many children actually enjoy attending single-sex schools because they believe that it is where their learning is best fostered. My second and final point is that it is convinced that having a classroom with both genders can create distractions. Moreover, I would like to mention that boys learn differently and express themselves in different ways. They are often less forthcoming in discussions group than girls and need more coaching. In a single sex environment, boys are less likely to be intimidated or embarrassed amongst their peers and are more likely to contribute instead of just looking or just listening and not actually getting the point of being in the class. In a similar ways, girls may find the presence of boys within the classroom intimidating, especially when they reach their teenage years. At this crucial stage in their education, for both boys and girls, a mixed environment can be distracting and hence a barrier to learning. Ladies and gentlemen, learning to thrive in a mixed community is an important part of growing up, and this can, however, be attained just as effectively through experience. All single sex schools deliver a comprehensive program of mixed social and extracurricular activities. often through building close relationships with other single-sex schools locally. To conclude, we believe that single-sex schools should not be abolished, as desegregation based on gender can be moral, and we should not interfere in private matters or choices when there is no ethical problem. With that, I thank you.
Okay, all right. Better. 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Yeah, all right. Okay, good start. All right, and then the conclusion was good as well. All right, you had more constructive conclusion compared to the previous session. Okay, now let's go back and look at the some of the arguments you did with Christina. Yeah. I thought that they were valid ideas. Okay, these are excellent ideas. All right. But in terms of labeling for the first one, okay, label. All right. The first one, the idea is that to talk about differences, isn't it? Okay. You started off with MRI scan, isn't it? That was the idea. Okay. So rather than saying my first idea is about MRI scans, okay, you can say my first argument that I'm going to discuss over here is this: to embrace the differences. All right, or to uphold the differences. Then you provide the example of MRI, okay, and then you talk about how different these differences are unique, and they should be appreciated, and that's why these differences require different form of approach of teaching and learning in school. Okay, we need different set of teachers to coach and guide them. Okay. And because of these differences, there are certain things that students will not have the openness to discuss at school. And that's why you need to provide them this safe environment, because they do not have the maturity, okay, to speak up boldly. And by protecting them and putting them in single-sex school allows them to have a more comfortable and relaxed interaction with their teachers and peers. Okay, why? So how? Again, the second one, the idea of destruction. Okay, okay, the concept of intimidated and so on. Okay, I agree to that, but I felt that it could be explained further. Okay, the explanation was just in one liner and two lines. Like you mentioned that they would feel intimidated by girls. All right, why? Is it because they perform poorly? All right, or is it the other way around? Okay, will the girls feel intimidated by the boys? How? So, what can we do? All right. So maybe in terms of intimidation, you can talk about that. As you said, even you mentioned it, right? Boys are different type of learners and girls are different type of learners. Okay, girls are usually very good with language. Okay, girls are usually very good with art and so on, whereas boys, they are more to maths, numbers. Okay, they're very good at this, right? So when it comes to certain subjects, the interests, okay, may differ. Okay, and that's how intimidation happens probably. Okay, and in terms of ethics, okay, I think I did hear, okay, a particular phrase coming from you saying that schools should be upheld because there are no ethical issues that's involving, okay, schools. Single-sex school at the moment. All right. So this particular statement can be open for questioning if there are any issues involving single-sex school, because there are a number of cases where there are plenty of we had cases of child abandonment, right? We have dumping of children, dumping of babies in single-sex school and so forth. But not only in single-sex school, it happens even in the co-ed school and so on, right? So and then we are also there is also an issue of lesbian and gay that is emerging in single-sex school, right? So when you throw that kind of statement, you want to justify. Okay, again, just like how Sophia mentioned, we don't want to provide loopholes. Okay, so maybe you can say by summarizing again what you mentioned. Okay,
just talk about it again. You say that, according to the ideas that I've just presented, I feel or I believe that single sex school should stand as it is because there is no dire need of abolishing it, and we believe that there is a need of the single sex school at the moment in our nation. So yeah, all right. Yeah, that's my suggestion. Okay, so the ideas that we could discuss is that, all right, when we talk about co-ed school, is that it provides diversified environment for students. Yeah, whereas it's not good because it can be a form of distraction as well, because students are curious with one another and so forth. Yeah. Okay, and stakeholders, we are looking at student, teachers, community, and parents over here. I think Christina is having an internet issue, yeah? And why this is important? Because we want to prepare students to university or work-life environment. We are preparing them for future. That's why we feel that there is no need of single-sex school. And those days, single-sex school was started off in the principle of religion itself. That's how single-sex school started, and we feel that it's no longer relevant in our current system. Just an example, yeah? All right, and then opposition, we feel that single-sex school should still be retained because of principle of school itself and the history behind the launching of school, right? I mean, what are we trying to promote at the end of the day? Okay, and then what happens when you abolish single-sex school is that teachers equality, all right? There won't be any form of biasness anymore, all right? When it comes to co-ed school. And at the same time, what happens is that teachers will be distributed equally as well, all right, to schools. And then it, of course, it promotes socialization and then networking, and that is obviously good for our students because we're preparing for the future. And at the same time, it improves communication because we have to understand the fact that men and women, they speak differently. And by having them in a co-ed school, you are going to encourage them and expose them to the tools of speaking to the opposite gender. So that's how it improves communication. And then why we don't want co-ed school? Because boys are different from girls. Okay, like how I think Tina spoke about the idea of differences. Yeah, they're different. We're all different from each other, and we want to preserve this. Yeah. Okay, and we also want to prevent early relationship. We don't want to encourage this in the school itself. Again, students are very curious. Okay, and we have social media influence. We have so many other form of media that may not be appropriate for the student itself, and this may encourage relationship in the school itself, and it may also affect their academic performance. Yeah. All right. So how academic performance is affected? Because of distraction. Why? Because they're busy looking out for one another. Yeah. So these are some of the ideas that we can discuss when we talk about single sex and co-ed schools. Yeah. All right. So we have come to the end of our session for today. All right. Well, I'm not going to give you any homework for tonight because tomorrow we are planning to have debate session. Yeah. All right. But just do up some reading. Okay. Just do reading. Okay. Because you may never know what topic I might ask you to debate tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm planning to have a session because I was told that you have school till 1:30 and we are not allowed to have exception, all right, for the morning session. So what about at 2? Will you be too tired at 2? 2 or 2:30?
I think I'll be fine with after 3.
After 3, okay, all right. What about you, Sophia? 3 as well?
Need to check. Hold on. Yeah, I think after 3 should be fine.
Okay.
Maybe 3:30.
Or 3:30, okay. All right. Okay. Tomorrow we will meet at 3:30.
I'm planning to have 2 sessions, right? So let's see, all right? If we can get the rest of the debaters to join us at 3:30, then we will just probably have 1 session, and then the night I'll just give you guys some time off, all right? But if we can't get the debaters to join us at the 3:30 session, then most likely 3:30 to 4:30 we will have 1 session of just going into details of topics, all right? I'm going to be going around talking about some topics that are commonly debated, okay? And then probably at night we will have 1 session just to have a full swing of a BP style debate, yeah? All right, so have a good night. Rest well. I'll see you tomorrow. All right, take care.
Thank you,
Thank
teacher.
All right, good night. Goodbye.
Good night.